Hey all, it's good to have you back. I heard um, the last video was a little difficult to hear. I may be covering the microphone here. I hope I'm not. But in case I am, I've been putting in headphones, make it easy to hear myself. So that would be one suggestion to put on headphones. I'm sorry that they're difficult to hear. We're still working out some kinks here. But welcome to the fifth video of Unshow. And in this one, we're going to be talking about understanding language. And in the last video, we talked about the universal message, how to get to understanding in a way that it's easier for us to be able to be on the same page in any relationship or groups of entities, numbers of entities, groups of people, whatever, companies, governments, relationships. It's one way for them to be able to begin to get on the same page. And now we're going to talk about language, understanding. And understanding is a loaded word because it can mean many things to different people. It can mean wanting to wanting to get the same meaning of what's being said. It's wanting to at least have a conception of the other side, and it's a bit difficult a lot of the time because it's almost starts off any conversation dialogue really kind of begins to be adversarial, me against you. So it becomes two entities going at it rather than trying to find a page to land on together. So understanding is basically trying to get on the same page, get on the same book, and then find the right page where you can both understand each other, which is one metaphor, one way of looking at it. And there's many ways. Obviously, one of the more understood ways that we talk to each other, that we communicate with each other, is through words. Words can be um, for many people different things. Beautiful. They can be beautifully useful. They can be tragically misunderstood. They can be awesome forces of communication, or they can be loaded weapons of um, uncertainty. We don't know what's being said. We don't know if it's directed at me. We don't know. The more the words, instead of clearing, it can obfuscate. It can get in the way of, can distract. So words have a mixed reputation for many people. Many love them, many don't. They just don't find any real use or respect for them. And this gets to understanding because many of us are the only way we could really get to know ourselves or others is through words. There's many different forms of communication, like body language, me talking to you, body language. There's environments where we can send letters, send emails. There's communications that are all over the place that they just happen. Just depends the way you want to share it with other people. From Morse code to the most complex form of communication you can think of, or the simplest. What we try to do here is, like I said in the last video, float, and we begin to move further down. And yes, there are benefits to being open, direct, honest, transparent. But many things get in the way of that, and it can be a little difficult to get to understanding. But here, we're trying something different. Not entirely new, I don't think, but a little more directly. And there's many different ways in which we can filter this, but I believe it is filtering that ends up making the clear, open, honest, direct aspect of it being thrown out. I care about the core values, which are, if I can remember them now, prevent suffering, reduce pain, suffering, increase opportunity, and expand knowledge of the universe. The fourth one is important because that's how we get to direct, clear, open, honest. Expand knowledge of the universe. That matters to me. So when we filter, we're filtering some stuff, yes, probably unnecessary, probably distracting, but if it's not there, then it might cause a delink. It might cause a moment where where people aren't connecting the meaning here. When you filter, you have a tendency to filter the necessary, and it all becomes less understandable. We're trying to understand each other here. So, it may seem rough, may seem uncomfortable, may seem polemic. We're trying to understand. What could be polemic about that? So, language. So, like I said, words, many different languages. One of the prime ways people talk to each other, communicate with one another. Body language, there's sign language, there's just the way someone looks, sends messages. Oh, image, as I've heard many times, is worth 1,000 words. That can be very true to many. And the environment that we're in can also send signals for us to communicate with. So all these different ways, levels of communication, of language, of understanding, there are negative aspects. We've touched on them too. Misunderstandings can get in the way of us finding that page, finding that book to get to that page. And that can be an interesting thing to look at, because a lot of the time misunderstandings are quite minuscule. They're petty, don't matter, and much of the time I have found that they're not necessarily beneficial to moving the argument, or moving the conversation forward, moving our want to be able to proceed together forward. It gets in the way. So how can we help understanding become easier to flow? An easier way to flow from difficult, very difficult, a lot of noise, a lot of shit going on, very difficult, to, okay, that doesn't matter. Here's what matters. How do we get back on the road? Back on the road that matters. That's understanding. So, negative outlooks, constant dissatisfaction can be a very difficult thing for people to get past. When you are in a situation where you find yourself okay with whatever goes on, but those around you are not okay with whatever goes on, and they make a constant point of being dissatisfied, causing you to feel like it's difficult to move forward. Tough, really tough, because you could have the most level-minded, warm-heartedness about your dissatisfaction to turn it into satisfaction and not be bothered. Others around you may not have the same willpower. So it's important to not let others' misunderstandings about the situation, the way they see it, they choose to be unsatisfied. That's their issue. You choose to be satisfied no matter what. You've taken care of yourself, man. You're good. If they choose to have a negative outlook, don't let that negativity, or I shouldn't say don't. It would be best not to let that negativity infect you, cause you to be dissatisfied, unhelpful. And that can be really tough to do, I know. That can be really tough to do because many of us it's easier to choose to be unhappy about something or dissatisfied about something. We choose many times, many times, to not be bothered by things that are small, but we also choose many more times to be bothered by things that don't matter and cause them to be huge deals. They escalate into ginormous, tragic, bullshit catastrophes that don't need to happen. I'm cursing a lot more than I need to. I don't mean to say bad words, but I'd like to stress the point here that negativity can breed more negativity. And that dissatisfaction within oneself can cause other folk, other selves to feel unhappy. And it's a difficult thing to get out of. I'm here telling you this. Not easy. But here I am, choosing to be satisfied no matter what. And it's probably easier for me than for many more. And may not last, may not be successful, but here I am, trying something. Maybe not different, maybe not new, but trying something. So we understand. Words are a way we can understand. For many body language, depending on the environment, we also, there are things that can cause us to prevent ourselves, each other from understanding, such as negative outlook, constant dissatisfaction within oneself and outside. And how can we understand better? Well, I covered positivity, kind of keeping okay with yourself and those around you in whatever situations around. You're constantly kind of annoyed that you don't have the khakis I'm used to having. What? There's no strawberries? There's constant excuses and reasons to be unhappy, dissatisfied, and negative. Choose not to go there. And choose not to be bothered when others choose to go there, to be dissatisfied, negative, bitchy. That's their ratchet deal. That's them, not you. We're cool. We're okay with whatever happens. We adapt. We improvise. So, how can we understand each other better? Yes, positive outlook and finding satisfaction in any situation with anyone you are, with anyone, especially if it means somebody that chooses not to be satisfied. Difficult, I know, but here are some tools. How can we improve communication? Well, the nature of communication is, like we covered, both harmful and helpful. Words can be helpful for us to understand each other. We happen to be the species that we seem to believe that humans, that is, 7 billion of us, we know many different idioms, dialects, languages. We like to believe that we seem to be the only ones that know how to communicate well enough, that we organized ourselves enough to communicate with ourselves, that we're special in that regard. All right. Okay. Why is there so much misunderstanding in the world? Why is there so much distrust in the world? Good question. If we happen to be the advanced ones that can talk with each other, then why does it seem that we can't seemingly have a conversation? Do you not understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Kind of thing. And I think it gets to a lot of unhelpful, bad, evil, unnecessary situations are caused by what can harm, the harm that comes with the nature of communication. It isn't all miscommunication. A lot of the time it's communication. Oh, I meant for that message to go through the way it did. And that can be unhelpful. Just as unhelpful as somebody saying, I didn't say that. I didn't mean to say that. Well, you heard me wrong. Those misunderstandings can be just as unhelpful. What we're trying to do here is focus on the tools to help us move forward and not talk about the past in a way that ends up ruining our future, ruining our process of moving forward. Very, very awesome, cool stuff. How can we improve communication? Well, recognize the disadvantages. Recognize the disadvantages of the forms in which you have already communicated. I have said it again, and I've said it many times. I'll say it again. I'll stress that open, honest, clear, transparent communication can be very difficult for many, and it's just not what many of us are trained to do. This is stuff that could have been taught in school. I mean, for all we know, it could be taught when kids are just beginning to say their first words. And we would probably have a different world, one where there would be more trust, one there would be more help, and not more pain, not more suffering, not more misunderstanding. So